Hi. Hi.
Un momento.
Okay.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound a little distant, but I think that's what happens with.
Yeah. And I'm
Oh,
also,
that's way better.
there we go. I'm also in a cubicle zone, so I try to keep my tone
Yeah.
a little
No,
lower.
that was better. Maybe even move it a little bit further down.
There we
Down.
go. Down a little better.
Yeah.
Testing
Better.
1, 2. There we go. All right. Excellent.
You look like an
Excellent.
airplane pilot.
Yes. Fasten your seatbelts. Please observe the no smoking sign. We'll be taking off in a few minutes. How are you doing?
When do I get my cocktail? I'm in first class.
Yeah, right. You know, it's been I know it's from the pandemic, but the behavior on planes has just gotten frightening.
Really?
I mean, they said that there's a term for it when they have to get a passenger off and they got to call the police and they have to come on.
Yeah.
And I think before the pandemic, the airline industry in North America, including Canada, would do like 250, maybe 300 times in a year it would happen. It's in the thousands now. It's like,
Really?
yeah, it's like a couple of thousand that people are
Wow.
just acting out on planes. And it's just like
The abuse the staff takes is probably off the charts.
ridiculous.
I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I guess I don't fly that much, but
I don't either, unfortunate, but it's interesting. People have said to me, notice there's a really cheap one, Spirit Airlines.
oh yeah. It's so
6 out of 10 are on Spirit Airlines. It's like people
really.
just,
Do you think it's like, are those people attracted to an airline that treats you badly? Or is it because you're treated so subhuman that you get like,
yeah,
I
good
think it's
question.
the I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but I think it's the
Yeah,
latter. It's
yeah.
such a horrible experience. You're treated like not human.
You're trapped in a pressurized tube,
You don't get water unless you pay for it. You don't even get water unless you pay for it.
See, I will pay whatever extra to like the Spirit Animals. Like, I mean, Southwest is basic, but I don't. And
Oh, I
there's,
love Southwest. Now,
yeah,
once I had no option getting back from Vegas, and I was like, it's an hour flight tops, so not a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
But it was like a miserable hour.
yeah. Well,
Well,
I'm hoping we have more show. I didn't
I
do the
know
reminder.
Esther's coming.
Okay. All right. We
Yeah.
just need a few of us just to kind of go
Yeah.
over stuff. Yeah. So,
Okay.
um,
Well, I'm gonna finish an email unless you want to get started. Oh, there's your package.
yes, I have to try that out at some point.
You know you're
Please.
never gonna try it, Kevin. You hate tea. You're not
Well,
gonna try
it's not that I'm not Ted Lasso. I don't hate it, but
it.
I don't do it myself. Like I just, I'm a water drinker,
I
but
will
hey,
say that the little sweet treat that's in
mhm,
there is really good if you like sweets.
yeah, I learned a ton. I mean, I learned a ton about the whole life. Like temperature shouldn't necessarily be boiling when you do
Yeah.
it. And to reuse it, the better teas, you can use 2 and 3 times. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
considered gauche or anything else. It's like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why it's more expensive tea. Yeah. So just like wine tasting, even though I'm not a wine drinker, I've gone on a number of wine tasting things, leading them, the designated driver, that kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
just learn a ton. So if you want to knock out that email, go ahead, because we can both take care of some business and wait for
Did
Esther.
did anyone accept the calendar invite? Let me see. Can we tell? Let's see.
Oh, let me take a look here and see. That's a good question.
She texted me saying that she would come. I see Cynthia,
Yeah,
Esther, and me.
yeah, yeah. So Regina and Judy, no. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Cynthia may come in when she can, and we can start when Esther gets here. So
Well, I know you can tell. Oh, here's Cynthia logging in right now.
okay, great. Yes, I got to meet Cynthia in person,
Oh, nice.
which was great. Yeah,
Yay.
yeah. I was telling people that that was probably the biggest surprise for me was, when you're used to meeting people and it's in a box like this, and then you meet them in person, and it's just completely different. Like I would look at someone, I'm like, they look familiar. Like I don't know why they look familiar, but the
They're
biggest
so
surprise,
dimensional. It's weird.
yes, right. But the
Texture to
biggest
their hair.
was one of Cynthia's classmates.
Jacob, Dana's cousin.
How tall is he?
I
What is
think
he?
he's like 6'5", something like that.
Yeah, and I wasn't prepared for that. I was just like, it's like, wow, dude, you're like,
You're like this whole time.
I
You
mean,
had
because
me
I've
fooled.
seen him walk across his apartment and the whole thing, but you don't have any perception. There's nobody else standing next to him, so you just think, oh, he's normal like everybody else. No, he's not. So, yeah,
Wow. Dana's cousin went to Oxy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
yeah, he's a classmate of Cynthia's. He's the class of 13.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
How was your reunion, Cynthia?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
It
I'm
was.
so impressed with all the work that you do, Kevin, and all the work that your office does. I think that, I don't know anybody who left that reunion feeling like in any way like disappointed or
That's
like
great.
that expectations were not met. If anything, everyone from my class thought it was like way more fun than they expected it to be.
Great.
I have like people telling me, they're like, I can't wait till our 15th. And I was like, call you in 5 years.
That's great.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. And I have to tell you, your dinner guest was one of my favorites. Kathy,
Kathy,
the
yeah.
sandwich lady. Did you know her, Janet, when you were a student there? She
Mm.
she worked in the campus dining, and apparently she did sandwiches for people. And Dana knew her. Like Dana, when I was taking her in the golf cart back, I leaned to Kathy. I said, "Were you here in '02? That's Dana's year." And she said, "Yeah." And I drove her by and I said, "Dana, do you recognize her?" And she looks over and she goes, "It's a sandwich lady." And she just lights up, She is
That's
just
amazing. I
yeah.
love that you invited her, Cynthia. That's so cool.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Yes.
think it was unanimous of our committee too. We all wanted Kathy.
Absolutely.
And it was also like so lovely because like, as you're saying, Kevin, like staff were like, Kathy's here.
Yeah.
And I also was just so thrilled to see so many people that I remember, as staff, like Mark Campos was like a photographer when I was a student, and Sabrina
Forever.
Amaro was like my boss in annual giving. So it was just like so lovely to see that not only the people, but that Oxy can, now that I'm a supervisor in real life, I'm just like, oh wow, like y'all are so impressive, like retaining such amazing people to work there and make impacts on people like me.
Yeah. It was good. And that was one of my concerns, was when I dropped Kathy and her friend off who was helping her, drove up from San Diego to drive her. She lives nearby. Yeah.
Wow.
She had said, she was a little nervous. I was nervous because I dropped him off like maybe 20 or 30 minutes before the dinner was going to start. But then one of the campus dining people lit up. "Miss Kathy, you were like a mother to me when I first started here." And so I knew she was in good hands. Like until the class got there would be somebody looking after her.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it really
Love
was.
Kathy.
Yeah, and I got the
Why did I not
nicest.
have Kathy? It's because I had Clancy's. I didn't have the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is This is a note from Kathy. I just got today, and it's just lovely. It's just absolutely lovely. So
I want Kathy in my life too. I want Sandwich Lady. So is she
yeah,
retired?
she retired a few years ago, maybe just before the pandemic. I think her timing
Okay.
was
In
pretty good.
2018. That's I
2018.
remember. I remember there's like I went through my old emails when they're like, Kathy's retiring. Send all your notes to Kathy.
Oh, nice.
It was
Yeah,
adorable. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you had a good reunion,
Oh, it
Cynthia.
was amazing. Very brief, but like, I think that the brevity of it actually added to how special I think it felt for everybody, that like you
Mhm.
kind of have to be there for these key moments because it's a day and a half and like, it's going to
And then
go
it's
by
over.
so quick.
Yeah, yeah. And her class, along with the class of 18, did $100 gift vouchers to the Oxy bookstore as part of their scavenger hunt kind of prizes. And that
Wow.
was very well received. And I checked with the bookstore, and she said like 3 or 4 people came in on Sunday and like spent them before they left. They like took care of it. So
Well,
that
we
was
should
great.
share those photos with you too, Kevin, because like, I don't know if you need them for marketing or anything, or just to have them on hand. But
Sure.
they're selfies of people around key parts of campus. And they're super cute.
That's such a great
Absolutely.
idea to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do share those. That'd be great. Because I'll pass those on to communications. I'm sure they'd love them. So
Oh yeah, I'm about to send Mark Campos all my photos from from that weekend.
okay.
Oh, hi,
All
Esther.
right.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Oh, it's all right. Not to worry.
We're
Okay.
just debriefing Cynthia's reunion and reunion weekend. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Long
Yes.
story
Wait,
short.
it was rainy?
No, it was amazing. It was
Oh,
perfect
okay.
actually. Perfect
Yeah.
weather.
Yeah.
She had a blast. Everyone
Yeah.
had such good feelings about it.
Although the
I love
Saturday
that.
night party, the outdoor party, it did
Oh,
a
so
heavy mist, but it didn't stop anybody. People were having a great time. So
Oh,
They
I wish
make
I
my
had
Hey.
gone.
photos look magical though, the mist in the background.
oh, cool. Cool. I look
Ooh.
forward to seeing them. I look forward to seeing them. That's great. That's great. So
Congrats.
let's
Congrats, Kevin, to you too. I know.
thank you. Thank you. I'm
I
still
can't even
recovering.
imagine the work that goes into it. So,
I stay here. We've got 4 like hotel style rooms in a
oh
living room.
yeah.
And so I stay overnight, and I brought my ice packs because I absolutely needed them. Like my knees were killing me, and I was riding a golf cart most of the time, but I took the whatever steps thing in my
Yeah.
phone, and it was like 14,000 one day and 13,000 another day, and that wasn't even accurate because I left the phone charging like for hours at a time, so
It's like you're at
it's
Disneyland for the day or something, just
yeah,
on your
physically
feet.
it's a lot. So
Yeah.
I want to respect people's time. We got about 45 minutes left. I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to debrief the tea tasting, and if we have time, and I'm not sure we really want to address it because it was a big thing for Judy, was the name change, and that's something we can certainly address at a later time. But if we could just focus on the debrief at this point, and that would be great.
I
Well,
think in
and I'd
addition
also love to just close out on budget since we really only have T-minus 9 days to spend that. So that's the big
Mhm.
thing too, that I want us to
Yeah,
be
I was
able
gonna
to.
say, I think we need to talk about the snacks that we're gonna buy for finals fuel.
Okay.
Because it seemed like you said, Kevin, if we waited till after alumni weekend, one option would be to just purchase them and have them shipped. And as long as they were purchased,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
somewhere at Oxy could store them. So we need to
Right.
figure that out.
All right. Let me just pull up. I know I've got the
But we
budget
could debrief first.
Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and start, and um, let me just give you guys a figure. Yeah. So 560 is what you have to spend. $560.
It's great.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So
we bought a lot of tea.
yes, we did. Well, and then actually that was the other part, was then the vendor kind of forced our hand. The people that we had offered to just participate and watch,
Oh,
the vendor was like, no, you didn't clear that with me. So we ended up paying for people that even said they just wanted to watch, and they didn't need the tea sent to them. But I had to
There's only
respect their
4 of
wishes.
them, right?
Yeah, there were only about 4, maybe 5, but they were all thrilled to do it, and they participated. They were there, so it wasn't that much, to do.
yeah,
But
that's
it
great.
was interesting because when I said to her, "Hey, we're offering this to people for $10. We're not asking $55 per person." And it kind of took some of the wind out of herself. She's like, oh, well, maybe they really don't want this sample if you're giving it to them essentially for $10. So, but she stuck to her guns. So I didn't want to, ruffle any feathers. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. But it's just a good note for the future that we need to, if we're thinking about doing something, we need to check with the vendor and make sure that it's okay with them too. So, I thought she was very knowledgeable. Clearly, I'd never heard the term like a tea sommelier. But she clearly knew her stuff. I learned a ton of stuff, not even as a tea drinker. I was pleasantly surprised by how many people were really thrilled we were offering it. I think we need to do it again. I mean, I think it was the response from people of, wine tasting. Everybody has a wine tasting, but tea tasting with content, with some perspective. I think next time we might be able to rope some faculty in from like the Asian Studies department to talk about tea cultures and how tea is kind of throughout all the various cultures is such a strong component of it. So I'm curious, what are some of your thoughts on how it went?
I mean, I would just say like, yeah, similarly, if our goal was to try to get the word out about this group that's kind of trying to form and maybe get some people that haven't really been engaged to like show up for something and just see who comes. I think that, it was great. We remember that time we're like, okay, what would be an ideal number realistically? And we achieved that. Like the people that signed up, like more or less, a lot of them actually showed up too, which
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
And it seemed like everybody came off camera at one point and participated, whether it was in the introduction or a story about their experience with tea or the trivia quiz. Like it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be too. And people were like into the tea, and the tea was really good. Like I'm still enjoying it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I would say, I think our decision to charge something for it, to basically not just make it free for people.
Yeah,
I think that certainly helped with people showing up. They had something invested in it. And I think that helped. So we
that
might
was a
want to
good
think about that.
decision. $10 seemed right. It felt
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I would have paid $55 though, just for the record, but $10 felt right.
No, I mean, what I've discovered in terms of events is if you put a little skin in the game, not a lot, but a little, you get more people up registering to attend something, and just that tiny bit will kind of incent them to at least say, all right, I'm going to at least try to make it. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
part's nice.
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
What do you think, Esther?
Yeah, I mean, I think our turnout percentage was right on target, which was great. And the people that had called in were enthusiastic, because it is a little bit different than a traditional wine. I like that we weren't serving alcohol, because I feel like, I like to booze it like anybody else, but in terms of just offering a tasting that is a little bit more different was great. And, so many people made the comment about like the little tiny snacks. It didn't have to be a chocolate tasting, right? Again,
Yeah.
chocolate tasting, very traditional. This was just like interesting cultural snack tie-in. I thought was actually really lovely too. And I just thought that was super nice. And that there was this kind of Asian bent to it, I think, because we wanted to talk about API, I think was also kind of a nice mix in terms of getting that, as opposed to just a general whatever. It was really, culturally, we're kind of trying to tie in some way. And I loved that on the conversations, people were like, oh, it'd be really great to do like a dim sum tasting next or whatever, or a dumpling tasting. Great. Let's, maybe when we looked at that registration list, right, they're very concentrated in very specific parts of the country. So great, let's target maybe one or two or whatever and say, we're doing a dumpling timeout, with the API groups, if you're interested. Here's where, we like to do, and maybe each one we subsidize a couple $100 and everybody else pitches in or whatever to pay for it, or however way we, kind of set it up. But I just thought it was nice that people were already talking about the next thing, which was great.
Yeah.
The other thing I was just going to mention to you, Kevin, was, I kind of snuck a screenshot of all of us when everyone was on camera as much as we can. I didn't know if there was any sort of kind of alumni follow-up that you wanted to do from a write-up perspective as you talk about some of the affiliate programs. It'd be great to talk about it. at the next Board of Governors meeting, just to say like, hey, you know, for alumni engagement, we've started. So I passed that photo in your inbox. So
Okay,
you do have that in there, Kevin, as kind of a way to talk a little bit about what we did for
great.
our program.
Yeah, the timing is good because we're now doing an assessment of the past year and the affinity groups, the ones that I manage, and looking towards the year forward, the next fiscal year, and what do we want to do. So I'll be looking for input from you all. I mean, I know we want to do another tasting event. Well, we may want to do something local. We may want to do something in areas that we have a concentration of people, because even if we only have 3 or 4 people show up, that's still, it can be back up a little bit. One of the things I have a note here is that one of the goals was to get the word out. And even if people didn't register, they got news, they got the word that the API is doing something, and that this was our first event. And
Sure.
so the next time they get it, it'll be like, oh, I wasn't able to make that. What are they doing this time? Because I've heard that from alums, and not here, but from other places, of like, we score points by just offering programming. It's
That's
a
true.
bonus when they actually sign up, but it helps the institution, it helps the affinity group by just trying and repeatedly having a regular set of programs that people can look forward to. If it's only once a year, because then we can maybe in September send out with the next event we have tentative calendar dates, and it doesn't have to be exact dates. It can just be in July we're doing this, in January we're doing this. Look for more information, kind of thing. So
Perfect.
yeah, so well done on that. So Cynthia, your thoughts on your perspective on how it went?
Oh gosh, Janet, Esther, I think you hit a lot of high points. I think that, yeah, you're right. The attendance actually was a little bit better than I was expecting. I remember in one of our meetings, I'm like, all right, all of you are responsible for 5 people. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by some of the breadth of class years that were involved,
Yeah.
from our most recent graduates,
Yeah.
some older generations. So that was really lovely. I know that we've already expressed this in the planning stages, but I do think that it was very positive that there were multiple regions represented by the T's. That I think it was great that we were so intentional about that. And I do think that resonated with so many people, because as we're learning things, and yeah, maybe I think people express like, oh, this is the tea that I grew up drinking, and to have that exposure about the cultural significance of some of the other teas, I think were excellent. If I had only one criticism, would mainly just be like the timing of the tea itself. I think that overall, like the structure of the event was really great. I think that there was maybe something either lost in translation with the presenter when they were describing, like how long are we supposed to steep and things like that, or kind of like that group management. I noticed that, like, oh yeah, some people are drinking, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be drinking yet?
Yeah.
So just like some of those maybe logistical things that I think that really played into the timing. I think that a lot of the questions kind of derailed the tea timing too. So I don't know how to solve those issues, frankly. I think that, the organic nature of an event like this, you kind of have to just go with the flow. But I do think that it made some of the moments a little bit kind of like off in timing, but still good. I think still well paced. I think, all of the engagement from folks who are participating, I think overwhelmingly made up for any kind of weirdness in that pace. So, weird, like double-edged sword there.
So funny.
Yeah,
You're so right. You're so right about that. But it was so nice because people were so engaged that it was kind of throwing the timing off. It wasn't like this silent Zoom call where no one's saying stuff or asking questions. People were really getting into it, which was great. But you're right. Like it kind of screwed up, like, wait, when do we see? When do we take it out? So I totally get that.
Yeah.
So again, no solutions.
But I think, that's something that we can work with the vendor, whoever's leading it, to try to and setting up expectations for people to let them know, like, we're going to do questions at the end, like, let's get through, jot down your questions and we can do that. There was a note I had of, it was also interesting, not through our invitation to API community members, but because it was posted on the events page, then we got some non-API alums
Yeah.
that were participating. And that was something that we'd kind of talked about the first time around. Let's do, but I think next time around we open it up, and that we may send out an invitation first. If there's any kind of limit on participation for something, we may do API first, but then we open it up to people, because clearly there was that woman from Oakland who lives like down the street from what is it? Tarling?
I don't know,
Darteeling.
yeah, I
Darteeling,
love
yeah.
that. They were like, I think I've seen your face in the street.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is such an
I'm
awesome
walking my
connection.
dog. That's so
Yes.
random.
Yeah. You look
So
familiar,
random.
kind of thing. Yeah.
There are Oxy people everywhere.
Yeah. So it was interesting. When I was participating just from the tech side and kind of listening, and at first I thought the intros took too long. We kind of modeled it, but then the self-introductions, but then they were really, I thought the vendor was okay with it because it gave her a sense of who the audience was and people's experience in it. So then by the end of it, I didn't think it was too long, but it was, my first instinct was like, oh, this is taking long. I was looking at the clock. I was kind of looking at the program, and I was like, we've gone over.
Yeah.
But
it was long, but
yeah,
it was. But I feel like Oxy folks were kind of excited about talking with each other a little bit. So I love that Janet was like, she's like such the master moderator of like keeping things going. But I also feel like I liked giving that space for them, because I felt like the alums really liked that too.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that up because, as I said, I thought it was at first, but then by the end, I was like, this actually worked out nicely. I mean, it's over the time we allotted, but
yeah,
it was important. I thought it set the kind of groundwork and allowed the expert to kind of know who her audience was and where she could go. Her comments at the end of like the most interesting questions she's received from people, like she felt like, wow,
Yeah.
you guys really, really learned and wanted to learn about tea and shared your experience. So
it's the Oxy way. Critical learning.
there you go.
You can't do anything casually at Oxy either. You gotta really go all in.
we're all in.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else really, other than I've got 2 kits here. One, Janet, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna taste the tea myself.
We're gonna try.
I'm gonna go through and try
If
it
you're not
myself.
trying tea, this is the tea to taste.
I'm gonna do that. I've got a friend who's willing to do it with me, so we're gonna sit down and do that. I also have one kit for Judy if she ever gets around. We did one for her.
Nice.
So
what about Esther's question about, is there like, do you track attendance? Like if Esther took a screenshot of who was there?
Yeah, we track attendance and we send it so it's noted in people's record that they attended this event. So it helps, because when we pull, now there was a question, I think it was Janet, you had a friend who was not on the list.
Yeah,
was not on the API list.
but
and
she was
so
at the event.
But she was at the event only because she heard about it through you.
Yeah.
And so one of it's an issue we have at Oxy. It's not just API alum, it's like Black alums or Latino alums. People have to self-identify, right? Like we can't go with what they said when they were admitted as students, because it's up to them. So, but how we can do that is, once someone attends like an API event, then they're coded and then they will be on future ones. So anybody that attended would be kind of included in that. But it doesn't address the question of how do we still are missing people, because they have to.
That's how we do events, and we try to capture people that way, right?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that the people attended, whether they're API or not, have expressed some kind of interest, so that we're tracking now that they
and it also goes sometimes by what they did in college, like whether they were part of an API affinity group in college, then they would be coded. But to that point, it means that it's more important that you all spread the word, right? That's there's some people we are going to miss just because
Yeah,
they didn't do anything in college that was necessarily coded as API, and they haven't done anything. So Connie O, that was your friend,
yeah,
right? It
Connie,
was,
yeah,
yeah. So now Connie is coded, right? Now
yeah,
she's come there, but
yeah,
it was the same question we had for the BAO group. They were like, why is this person not on? It's like, because they haven't identified, and we can't do that. If we do that, we run the risk of like pissing somebody off, or making
sure.
assumptions
Right.
or something like that. So
Yeah, a lot of people
Gotta
don't
be
disclose
so
race when they apply, so.
yeah, so just something to think about in the future.
Apparently, Supreme Court decisions will show up where they won't be able to
Yeah,
do that
may
anymore.
not,
Yeah.
Lord,
Or,
or
I
it just
mean,
won't matter.
to
yeah.
your point, Kevin, when you sent the list, like of folks, way back when, I think you sent a list of people who identified as API.
Mhm.
There's somebody on a list from my year who is identifying as API, and I know he did this as a joke. I know he identified
Really?
API as a joke. And I'm like, dude, I actually texted him, was like, dude, why are you on this API list? I'm like, I know you're a cis white man. There's no transracial here.
So funny.
Like, oh,
Well,
it was an admissions joke. And I was like, what do you mean it's an admissions joke?
do pass along that name, because
Wow.
we can easily remove those folks from the list. As much as it's harder to put them on, it's much easier to remove them.
14 years later.
Yeah. So yeah, just send me a little note with that, and we'll nip that one in the bud. So, all right. Was there anything else on the tea tasting we wanted to talk about? I mean, clearly it was successful. If not doing that same event again, as you pointed out, Esther, maybe it's dumpling tasting, maybe it's something else that is around food or something, but offering the non-alcoholic tasting events, I think there's a real market for people to do that. I mean, as we said, you can find wine tastings dime a dozen, like not
Right.
hard to do
Okay.
that.
Let's do poke tasting.
And
Yeah.
so that's, you can teach me about that. What is that? What is poke?
It's a Japanese
What is
snack.
poke, Kevin?
Sorry.
You live in LA.
I know.
Or,
Oh,
Japan has some really interesting flavored Kit Kats.
Oh, yeah. That's
as in
true.
the candy bar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than chocolate? Like what
Yeah,
is
there's like
Kevin,
what,
there's a
like
whole
50?
world. Yeah.
There's
Really?
so many.
Wow.
Kevin,
Okay.
we're going to introduce you to the world of the Asian cuisine,
Love
which
it.
brings us back to
Asian
actually
snacks.
Final Fuel.
Yeah.
We should get a whole bunch of Kit Kat flavors and put it in the storage for Finals Fuel.
As long as it doesn't melt. It's the only
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
thing. Yeah. What's
right.
the storage like? Is it air conditioned? Where
Yeah.
is it the ICC or whatever the
It would probably be in the basement of our building, like in a corner someplace. So it would stay relatively cool. It wouldn't get super hot, and the building is air conditioned.
it is
So
in
yeah.
the basement too?
Well, it's not in the basement, but if you got the top all air conditioned and the basement is not getting any direct sunlight, I was a passive solar energy minor. at the time, so-
Okay. I was like, how do you know?
Yeah. So with all the cement, it'll stay relatively cool. It'll stay like no more than like 70, 72, 3 degrees. It won't get any higher than that, because there's no
Okay.
direct sunlight in
Okay,
there
so we
to
need these
heat it up.
snacks to last until, is it December?
Probably
Find it?
November, very late November. Oh yeah, you're right. Probably December. So,
Unless we do midterms or something, but just in case it
Yeah.
ends up being finals, it needs to last almost 5 to
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
5 months.
So, I'm thinking of Korean War bunker food. We're talking ramens,
Spam.
the cup things of like curry and udon soups and ramens that you can basically get at, any traditional grocery store, whatever that we could order. Those would be really great. I mean, I love the idea of the Kit Kat flavors because it is so, this sounds weird because it's Kit Kats, but it's so Asian of
Mhm.
all of these different Kit Kat flavors. It's really fun. Super easy to get, Kevin, but again, it's chocolate. So we want to make sure that it's not going to melt. If we can get away with that, that would be really great. I'm thinking also things like, what is that? It starts with an H. The little gummy haichu.
haichu?
Oh, haichu. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like haichu packs of different flavors. Again, very, very Asian in that way that we can get. Oh, Pocky. Yes, Janet, like Pocky we can get. Those you can even just get from like Costco and like big different flavors and stuff.
yeah.
Asians are
Kevin
all
has no
about
idea
like,
what we're talking about.
Okay.
No,
I
okay.
know, well, so that was my next question, Kevin, is like, do we give you links for you to order it? Do we order it and just get a reimbursement to ship to a particular, like, what's kind of the process with which we can do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because it has to be spent in the next few
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
Either way works. Probably the easiest way is for you to give me very precise information so I order the right things, and then I can order them, and it just kind of skips the whole like reimbursement process, which can take some time. So yeah, go ahead and price it out, and then I would leave some wiggle room for shipping and stuff like that. So whatever your final total, as long as it's below 560. If you went over to like 570 or something, that's fine, but we're trying to keep it within the budget. So that way we can spend it by June 30, and then July 1st, you need to think about the $5,000 budget that API will have for the rest of the year, and kind of how you want to spend that. So you will have already spent and should get quite a bit of ramen and other items for $560. But that'd be great to have that on hand already. And I also think, when you get that stuff that keeps well, then you get to use it in the spring, or you get to use it. It doesn't, you're not worried about it.
Yeah.
The chocolate you may want to get done by finals fuel, but
Yeah.
you have leftovers, it's fine. It doesn't go to waste. So.
And
Yeah.
that stuff we can just, I mean, like literally we could just buy all over Amazon, right?
Or H-Mart online.
Is
Does
there an
H-Mart have an
online?
online?
I had been for a while, but it might have just been like outside vendor. It was like,
I mean, they do have a shipping and delivery.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so, but that's just H-Mart, not, do you know what I mean? Like, do we need to
It can
think
be more than
about?
one store, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. It can be more than one store.
Okay.
But I'm just requesting that it be very clear to me,
Right.
item number, whatever, so I don't mess anything up. So I'm not getting, it's like, that's not the one we wanted. That's not so
Yeah.
and then we can do that.
Oh yeah, like this is the perfect one, Kevin, for example. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's a Kit Kat Japanese pack of 21 flavors.
I
Ooh.
might buy this for me.
was like, can you
Right?
accidentally send one to me?
Oh wow,
So
it's
like,
not that expensive.
Yeah, so it's $30. So we could get like, 5 quantity of these, right? And then we can get like, Shin Ramyun, which I know everyone eats.
Getting hungry.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
So perfect. Yeah. And this stuff should keep, and again, for the students, that's what they're looking for, is the stuff they can grab, go back to the dorms, keep studying, eat it up when they need it,
Yeah.
So
Thank
great.
goodness they all have microwaves these days.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, so I'm like, these have like, I'm looking at assorted packs and, ramen. They have these like ramen box. And yeah, we could order these through Amazon, honestly, Kevin.
Sure. That'd be great.
And then it's like free shipping, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So they've got, tonkatsu ramen, you've got these bowl noodle packs.
Yeah.
Pack of 4 is ridiculous. We should get a pack of, like pack of 18 seems like a much more reasonable thing that we can get.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
And remember, you want to get enough remember, there's other groups that are going to be doing food also, like Oak Club will be doing some food, and BAO will be doing some food, and again, finals fuel. So just get enough that you can spend. You don't have to spend all of that, but then it's a matter of like, do you all want to get together? You all want to get together. I mean, Cynthia, I know you're out of town, but if you guys want to get together, do a strategy lunch someplace, or whatever. Just save the receipt, make sure you note who it is, but just be aware your budget's 560. Whatever you don't spend on the finals fuel stuff, keep track of it, spend it for something. And as long as you bring up API and it's a strategy meeting, you're good, so yeah.
okay.
Do that. Okay.
Great. Okay. So this chat has basically plenty to hit our budget, to be honest, Kevin.
Okay, good.
I think these are all variety cups of stuff. We've got the Kit Kats, we've got regular ramens. I think if you just order some of these up to our amount,
Mhm.
I think we're basically done, because they're each
Okay.
packs are like on this list that I just sent you, they're
Yeah.
anywhere ranging from $30 to $35 each. So
Okay.
if we get 2 or 3 packages of each of these things to get sent to your storage,
Mhm.
it should cover the $5.90 that we have left easily.
Terrific. Okay.
Wow, this packet is pretty amazing. It has haichu and all this stuff in it.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, 18
Huh.
pack. Wow, that's pretty cool.
I know, I'm
Okay.
like, I feel like I need to save this for when I send my kid off to college.
All right, so I've got 3 links to oh, and then the Kit
Yeah,
Kat.
there should be 4 right there.
Yeah, so I got all 4.
Is there anything else outside of food that we send for Final Fuel?
There was talk of doing like hiring a masseuse, like a chair masseuse or something like that.
But we can't do that for this budget, so
No,
it's
no.
fine. I mean, just in terms of anything we can store. Do they
Yeah.
like, I don't know, do Asians like stress balls or,
You know,
I don't know, weird Asian toys? I don't know.
yeah, no, I think the food is probably your best bet. I mean,
Okay.
but it begs for a longer discussion, because I've only done really one finals fuel, and then this one in the spring. When I learned there was no finals time, it's all like which professor decides to do the finals, and so there wasn't like a week like there is in the fall. So I think food is the safe bet, but we should think about and maybe even ask the students for this next one, like, next go round, like what would you all like? Someone else had mentioned like stress balls or something, but I think
I'll be
it
right
might
back.
be,
Hold on,
sure,
sorry.
but I think it might be, I'd hate to see you guys spend money on something that students don't, use them once and toss them, kind of thing. So,
Well, and Emmons gives out all those stress balls already.
Oh,
yeah,
they
right.
do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the mental health, place gives out stress balls and stuff. So,
Nice.
yeah. So, but it is worth kind of thinking like what else could do that. But I think one of the things I've learned is like, I try not to guess, just ask, ask the
Yeah.
students, like, well, like, we're going to continue to supply food. Other affinity groups going to continue to, give you stuff you can take back to the dorms and heat up at 3 a.m. But what else might you want? What else would be useful? And
I know
I was
that,
thinking, oh, go ahead.
sorry, Janet, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that sometimes in the past at a couple of places that I've worked, depending on how close they are to like local cuisine, we have paid for like $5 or $10 gift certificates to local eateries, just like right around.
Mhm.
And then sometimes like if they have like delivery options, they can apply it toward that. And it's just like, sometimes like the study food is just not doing it for you, and you just like
Yeah.
how to pick me up. But that's
Yeah.
other places that I have worked, and just an option for
Mhm.
if you want to like get more people out into LA, Kevin, for example,
Yeah.
um,
So it's a great suggestion. It has come up before, and the business office at Oxy has been very clear to us. They do not like gift certificates for
Okay.
2 reasons. Yeah, for 2 reasons. One, they
Okay.
have to list them as taxable income. So that means it gets really complicated with, doing that, which is why for the 2 API vouchers to the bookstore, they were vouchers to the bookstore that involved interdepartmental transfer of funds versus a gift certificate that would go on, say, a credit card or something. So, so to your point, like they've said, you can do it, but they strongly discourage it, because then we've got to get like social security numbers of people and of the giftees and yeah. Go
Can you
ahead.
explain that to my office? Because they will like, I'm in this, like, I wouldn't say power struggle, but I'm in a struggle right now because I just want to pay students more for their work. but they're like, no, just give them gift certificates. And I was like, they don't want a gift certificate. They
Oh,
want money.
Yeah. And Oxy's the opposite. They don't want us to do gift certificates. Well, they've said we can do it, but they said it's going to be more work for you and more work for us, and it gets very complicated. And
It
then
is a lot of work.
yeah, and then some people really don't want to give out their tax ID information and stuff because they're just like, I just got a gift certificate. Why do I have to tell you my social security number and all this other stuff? So,
right.
yeah. So,
Fair.
but doing something where students were invited off campus for something,
Mhm.
for a meal or something, that's
Do
easier
like a
to do.
pre-finals, like,
Yeah.
fuel, pre-finals fuel.
Yeah, go someplace, you've got a couple of hours, we're gonna do like, non-alcoholic drinks and pizza or something like that. Easy peasy, not hard to do. And even giving, it's interesting because you could do something where when you gift certificate, but you could say like, for these 2 hours, you can go to, is it Delilah's, the Dahlia's, the burrito
Oh,
place?
the breakfast burrito place.
Breakfast burrito place, like,
Mm.
breakfast is on us, but you got to get down here between these hours, and then I could just be there with the credit card, keeping track of it. So it's not quite a gift certificate, but it gives people the
Yeah.
ability to go off, and it's,
Yeah.
and then you can do a little like compliments of the API group, and you can find us in our next event is the such and such. So we
I
just
love
have to
it.
be creative. Yeah, just to be creative in terms of how to do that. But to your point, Cynthia, yeah, getting some food off campus at some point, I think the students probably like that. Yeah. So
At one point, I think pre-pandemic, we were bringing in hot food for finals fuel. But then that was, became passe during the pandemic. So, and then there was like a campus rule, right? Like you couldn't bring hot food off campus unless there was a server there.
yeah,
So I don't know if that's changed, but
it hasn't. It's gotten more strict because
oh, it
the
has.
risk assessment people were like worried about like
Nope.
food poisoning or something like that. So
Got it.
if it's on campus, it's got to be prepared, served
I
by
heard it was
campus staff.
good though. Like the Latino alumni group was bringing in like homemade like tamales and like amazing food. Like I heard
Yeah,
it's off the charts. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, those days are over, from what I
Okay.
understand.
All right.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
That's why
for
we had
things
to go
like
with
Taste of
snacks.
Oxy.
What's
I
that?
know.
I was just asking about Taste of Oxy, which is like when people used to bring like potluck style food.
Yeah. And it's
but-
also interesting because it might also be students can do that, but
but
alumni
not-
can't,
oh.
right? 'Cause
Okay.
right.
That actually makes a lot of sense in the risk assessment world, I think.
Yeah, because the
And is
students are
there like a
covered.
distinction between like external vendors, like catering versus like,
I heard you could have a caterer there, but they have to serve the food. They have to like bring it and be there serving. It can't be like drop it off, like serve yourself. We'll come back and pick it up later. Has to be tended to with like all the security measures for like food safety.
Yeah.
So those
Yeah,
days are gone.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I
Yeah.
wish
there
I
was-
could say that I didn't understand.
Yeah, so we got about 10 minutes left. I did want to check in with you all. I'd love to do something in like late July, just to kind of go over the tentative program. I'd like to kind of put, we are supposed to put together program plans for each of the affinity groups. And, we had kind of talked about doing 3, maybe 4 events next year, finals fuel being one, doing something in which people can get together, and it can be regional gatherings. It doesn't have to be here. But that list that we put together of, where concentrations of API alums are, and all it takes is like one person to say, I'll show up, I will be there, I'll invite friends, save the receipt, mark down who was there, and then just send it to us, and we just reimburse you all for it. So so let's think about the other 3 events we want to do.
Well, I think just in terms of timing wise, Lunar New Year, we should try to do something for sure. And then API month in May for sure. So those are kind of their good cadence times, with finals fuel being November, December, Lunar New Year likely probably in February some time frame, and then API month being in May. So just that gives us kind of a few months in between, I think would be really great.
Yeah.
In a perfect scenario, I would love for one of them to be like a regional physical meetup of dumpling tasting, dance performance, whatever, something specific for each region. I think that that would be really great. It would be kind of fun if we all did I'll give you an example, like everyone goes to dim sum, but everyone goes to a different dim sum, and then post the event, anybody that came, hopefully they'll register. We could have like a fun, either we can do a Zoom meetup, that might be too complicated, but even just like a form of like, which ones were your favorite? And then we could like send it out to everybody, be like, hey, from all the different regions, here were some comments or feedback. Just again, for just general engagement. I think would be really fun. I would imagine around Lunar New Year might be really hard to do anything like that because a lot of people go and stay with their families or celebrate with their families. And so trying to tack onto that might be hard, but maybe for May next year, that might be kind of a fun thing to do, to go out.
Good idea. I like the
to
idea of like
experience something.
different people hosting in different areas.
Yeah. And then
All at
maybe
the
for
same
Lunar
time.
New Year, we could do some sort of academically oriented thing to talk a little bit about, I don't know, cultural history, or I'm totally making shit up. But I'm just like, maybe the Tuesday one is more of a virtual gathering, since it might be simpler to try to do versus in person.
Yeah. And I think the model you can use for that, particularly for the regional gatherings, is similar thing, $5, $10 registration. And with that, you get, the dumplings and something else, which then API underwrites, but that way people show up. They don't just mark it off and then blow it off.
That's right.
And then you put very strict limits on it. It's like, this is a sampling, you get this many. And if you want to get more, that's up to you. But it allows people kind of a base to, to come in. It's going to be very inviting to know that, like, hey, I'm the Alouette group, the group for alums in education. They're doing something this weekend. Tour of the library, looking at they're usually focusing on books, and then they're going to this really nice restaurant, and it's limited to 16 people just because that's what the restaurant can kind of hold at one table. But they're, $10 gets you the reservation, and that way people show. But people's lunches are going to be $50-$60, in doing something like that, and they will still stay under their 2,500, easily under their 2,500 that they have. So that model of kind of letting people know this is the value that API is offering, similar to what we did with the tea tasting. And this is up to you all, but there's something, it comes from like the marketing part of me, and it is, let them know how much it's underwritten, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, this was nice, it was $10. It's like, no, this was $10, but it was actually $55, and API covered this, because then people realize the value that you all are giving for something. And it needs to be done in a tactful way. It's not because we're trying to show off or whatever, but just let people know, this was a $55 value, and compliments of API, we're going to underwrite it for, this. So something for the future to think about. Yeah. Yes.
Great. Oh, I was just going to make a suggestion that was non-food related, but I think we've already talked about this in the past, but like maybe some kind of book club, but just like one book for one event, not like a series of books. And Oxy, I think we could use our funds to maybe subsidize the cost of the book. You could do, I've seen places do it in a lot of different ways where, how do we be most inclusive? Like not everybody wants to read the same genre. So, I worked at a place where we offered 3 books, and like, we all like as a committee, like chose one of our books and led those particular forums. But just a thought in case people are not always enticed by the food aspect.
Yeah. And also think, with your budget, you could do a guest speaker. You could do a lecture of some kind, of somebody talking about something that's really important to the API community, virtually, which, a lot of people will do stuff for a lower cost because they don't have to get on a plane. They don't have to leave. They can just do it from their home. So it never hurts to ask. If there's a particular author or a lecturer or somebody on a subject matter, hey, we could get, the chair of the Asian Studies department here to do some kind of, virtual gathering to talk about, something. We'd reached out. We weren't able to do it in terms of timing, in terms of the end of the semester and and stuff like that. But there was some interest from the chair of the Asian Studies Department to be happy to talk about, subject. I think he had done something on food in like Asian countries, and so when we said the tea tasting, he was kind of interested, but then it kind of didn't really turn into anything. But yeah. So things.
Fun.
Yeah, I was going to mention a book reading or book club type thing. So that was
Mhm.
great. I think something lecture-y could be interesting. And the other thing I was well, two things. One, I think we should also think about co-sponsorship ideas too. Like we don't have to create everything from scratch, but we can partner and collaborate with others. So
Mhm.
what are the other alumni groups doing? We're at the intersection of like Out at Oxy and AAPI, or
Mhm.
like OCLA and AAPI, or I don't know, something the UEPI is doing about like community organizing and the Asian American community, right? So like we can cross program together.
Mhm.
So that I think we'd have to somehow get tapped into what's going on campus to know what those cross programming opportunities are. And how do we know what the other affinity groups are doing, Kevin? So we can, like, I don't know if you ever bring all of us together, but it'd be nice just to know what else others are doing so we can think about how to
Yeah.
program
So
or
mhm.
partner, or
So it's
we
a
can save
great.
money that way
Yeah,
too.
that's a great suggestion, Janet. So the BOG now has a position for
Mm,
someone that is supposed to be the liaison between the BOG and the affinity groups. So the BOG has been brought in terms of what's going on, what are all these groups doing. When we have the plans, which are supposed to be for us, turned in to Dana by August 1st or 2nd, something like that, I'd be happy to share with you the plans schedule for the other affinity groups. You can look and see. I think the Alouette group, I mean, you're talking about a book discussion, the Alouette group is doing that already. So you could tie into that. And again, talk about maybe sharing some funds, bring the author in to talk about a particular book for a Zoom call or something like that. They would certainly be interested in that. The group that is the least kind of sure of what they're doing next would be the Out at Oxy group. So they'll be open to kind of suggestions for kind of pairing up for some events or something like that.
What? Jake made it sound like they were all over it.
No.
He's like,
No.
we're the only group that brought swag to the reunion.
Yeah. And what's really funny is people were just like, that's what you guys are spending your money on? Like, like other people like
was it
spending
good
it on
swag?
programming. Well, the buttons, the pins, which were
Pins are nice.
Yeah, the pins are nice. So these were the Out at
Oh,
Oxy.
those are really cute.
They are
That's a great
magnetic.
logo.
Yeah, they're magnetic.
Oh, that's
so
a
they
good
can put them on the
logo.
lapel. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's something.
Nice.
If you all want to think about, like, once we address the possible name change, like, do you want a new logo? Do you want to have a web page that is hosted by Oxy so that you can kind of do that? So that's all well
Right,
within
right.
your ability to do.
We're just
So,
gonna blow all our money on ramen.
Yeah.
Well,
So
the other thing I was going to ask too is not just affiliating or partnering with other affinity groups, but we should also find out what the APITA group of the students are doing to see
Yeah.
how we can do something with them as well, so that we're bringing in alums. And, I know that the BOG has a career engagement group already set, but if we could target one specifically for the Asian community, like that would be kind of fun as well, that we can bring in for students. And we could master the Janet McIntyre breakout group, where we can do speed dating via Zoom and get these students and alumni connected with different groups too. So that might be something we try to do with our own specific affinity group.
I think that's definitely a gap we should fill for sure.
Yeah.
And I thought APITA was the main group, but apparently there's multiple Pan-Asian student groups. Is that right? So I don't know.
There are a couple, maybe as many as 3. But to your point, Esther, one of the things that the BAO learned as kind of a strategy is it needs to go in the direction of, it's a student event which we are supporting versus we have an event we're trying to attract students to.
Perfect.
Because
Love it.
because the trying to attract students to our events has not been successful. There's just too many things going on. So it's easier to support an existing event that is run by students, advertised by students, and that we can be part of, than trying to do an event in which we're trying to get students to come to our event. That was something the BAO, they had a Christmas party off campus. It was at like a trustee's house, really nice, good food, you know, drinks, the whole thing. We were thinking, do we need to get the Tiger bus? Do we need to get the, you know, all these things? One student RSVP'd and that student never showed. So they were just like, but it was around the holidays. It was like, come on, you know, and does someone want to go to a trustee's house? They don't know them. They don't know anybody. So, but they are very much into supporting the Black student organization on campus and whatever
That's
they
cool.
can do to help them out. So, yeah.
So maybe for this next meeting then, Kevin, one of the things we could try to do is, well, maybe not the next meeting since the kids are probably not even in school at that point, but when the kids are in school, try to connect with the leaders of all of those Asian community student groups. And let's have a meet and greet just to introduce ourselves and say, hey, here's this resource for you. Tell us what you guys have got planned for the school year and how best potential alums can help support you, whether that's through, you know, career mentorship or connections in your hometown. You know, I don't know, have conversations with your parents since we're their parents' age at this point about anything, like anything that the alums can help support. Because I think that that would be really helpful just to kind of get a sense of like, do you want our help? Because if they're like, I got it, we don't need you, that's fine too. But we just, we want them to understand that there's this untapped resource that maybe we could help them with too.
I think it's a great idea, Esther. And I think you could do that also with a little bit of food to attract them, like pizza and something, and then Zoom it, you know, do the hybrid event where, you know, Cynthia can join, if you all locally can join, but if not, we put up a laptop. I've done this with Alouette a number of times. All you really need is kind of a speaker and to hear people's questions. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. So I'll take a look and see what student groups but you're right, probably September. And September is also a month. There is so much going on and the kids are just getting back to campus. You really want to take a look in October in terms of getting the student groups for something like that. But
Perfect.
yeah, okay. Thank you all very much. Cynthia, just a personal thanks to you for helping with your reunion committee. Couldn't have done it without you, really. So
we pulled it out. We had so many people come. I'm so thrilled.
You did. The
So
numbers for the
great.
gold dinner were higher than anticipated. It really was a great turnout. So
Amazing. Congratulations, Cynthia.
yeah.
Mark
And-
Campo said we had a great class photo.
Good. And Janet and Esther, thank both of you for really helping out, helping get that tea tasting off the ground. And
Well, big
done.
thanks to Esther, who basically led the whole thing. So thank you. And
Yes.
worked with the vendors so closely and our whole event flow, PowerPoint, all of it was awesome.
Well done.
And Kevin, thanks for holding our hand over the last many months through this
Yeah.
whole process
Thanks, Kevin.
to
Doing
get
my
us to
job.
our first
Just
virtual
doing my
event.
job. All right.
Sorry, we were so
Kevin, really at this
indecisive
point,
for
then we're
so
good, right? Like you've got these links, so you'll make the orders, like
Yep.
so nothing, we're basically good to go to spend the rest of that budget, and these are
Yep.
your links. And
Absolutely.
I love it.
All right. Super.
Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great day.
Thank
Okay.
you all.
too.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.